Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Global Partnership on Plastic Pollution and Marine Litters webinar, leveraging the GPML digital platform for sustainable action on plastic pollution and marine litter. My name is Naota Takeuchi. I'm the lead developer of the GPML digital platform, and I will be the moderator for today's session. The webinar will be recorded and then presentations will be sent to you afterwards. So we have a great lineup of speakers today who will share the expertise and experiences with the GPML digital platform today. And then I will introduce all of them before the respective presentation. But before I begin, let me offer the floor to Ms. Sara De Silva, the co-chair of the GPML, for the few opening remarks. Sara, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, and hello everyone. As the co-chair of the Global Partnership on Plastic Pollution and Marine Litter, I'm really pleased to welcome all of you today to this webinar and to learn more about this important initiative of the digital platform. As many of you know, there's many actors and initiatives underway to address plastic pollution, and coordination amongst all of these is really critical to maximize resources and amplify and increase impact. So the Global Partnership on Plastic Pollution and Marine Litter has enabled international multi-stakeholder coordination since it began about 12 years ago. It currently consists of over 600 members around the world, from civil society, the private sector, academia, and research, as well as government agencies and intergovernmental organizations. So as we continue to grow and strengthen our global network, we are really thrilled to connect everyone and to have all of you join us again today to hear more about this particular initiative. So your commitment to tackling plastic pollution and marine litter is really what makes our collective efforts impactful. And so we are incredibly appreciative of all of our members and all of the work that's underway. So with that, we're excited to share these latest updates and developments with you. We also always warmly welcome new members to join our ever-growing community. So if you would like to join and become part of the GPML, there's information on the website for the GPML registration page, and maybe someone can put that in the link for you in the chat, but we always welcome new members. And so with that, I will pass it over to you now to walk us through these latest updates to the digital platform. So thank you and welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Sara, for the very encouraging introduction. And then, yes, we're going to put the link of the registration to join the GPMLs. So please have a look at the webinar chat. So now today I'd like to go through a little bit of agenda today. So we're going to have a little bit of an overview of the GPML digital platform by me. And first of all, and then after that, we're going to have a presentation from Maya and Anisha, Maya Bertul and then Anisha Gill-Hanstead from UNEP DHI, who will be speaking on their work on data integration and harmonization relevant to digital platform development. And then after that, we're going to have a speaker from UNCTAD, Petra Kinklova, and who will offer insights on the trade data and then that integration of the data into the platform. And after that, we're going to have a presentation from Samuel Nyakuda from a Worldwide Fund for Nature, South Africa, who will present us the benefits of using the digital platform and then his project implementation using the digital platform. And then finally, we're going to have a presentation from Dr. Kostas Velis from University of Leeds on the new study on the estimating plastic waste emission to the environment in GPML. And then this one will be really highlighting the past year's collaboration between the University of Leeds and the GPML. And then after that, we're going to have a user consultation session and our Q&A session where you can direct questions to our speakers. And please feel free to enter your questions in the chat box during the webinar, and we will try to respond them via the chat and then also at the end of the webinar. And then if we run out the time, so then we're going to reply to you by emails. So without further ado, let's begin with the GPML updates. So this is a little bit of GPML updates, especially on the membership composition as of September 2024. At the moment, we have 661 members spanning 100 countries. The membership is made up of various types of organizations, including civil society, private sector, governments, international organizations, and academia. And so far this year, we have seen a significant growth from the Africa and Asia Pacific regions and academia and research institutions. So yeah, it's great to see that the partnership and then this network is growing. Maybe next slide, please. So I also would like to announce this event, GPML multi-stakeholder event, to be held in the afternoon on December 2nd this year in Busan, right after the INC5. And then the venue is the same Bexco, same as the INC negotiation to be held. And then please join us to engage with the global stakeholders and explore the way to reduce the plastic pollution in marine litter. And then this will be hybrid events, and the registration link for the virtual event can be found in here. So please click here. I think that now the registration is shared in the chat. So please have a look and then join us on the 2nd of December for the GPML multi-stakeholder event. And now I'd like to begin with a little bit of a brief overview of the digital platform. The GPML digital platform has been developed in a phased approach for the past years, and we are currently in the final stage before the full launch in Busan that we are planning. And then in this presentation, I'd like to kind of highlight the key functionalities of the platform and ongoing efforts towards the full launch. So yeah, I'll go into this. So I'd like to, so GPML digital platform, or like we might be renaming it later to a global plastic hub, is the data and knowledge hub for informed and evidence-based decision making among stakeholders. And we have 4 different pillars under this digital platform. And then one is knowledge hubs, which facilitates learning through sharing best practices, case studies, guidelines, tools, technical resources, training courses, and masterclasses, and so on. And then the second pillar of the digital platform is the data hub, which showcases quality assured data throughout the plastic life cycle, collected and visualized nicely. And we are also currently working on the national dashboard to support source inventory development for the countries and in measuring the progress. And a third pillar of the digital platform is Partners Hub, which has a number of organizations and individuals are registered in there. And in that facilitates networking with like-minded individuals and organizations for consulted and coordinated actions. So this is also provides the window for the joining the GPML network under this page. And then we also have another space called workspace. This is something that where you can get an access once you create your own account onto the GPML digital platform. And then this is an area to support countries in developing national source inventory development towards national strategy, roadmap and action plan, where the step-by-step guide and data and knowledge materials are provided. So this is a kind of a little bit of overall structure of the GPML digital platform. And then next slide, please. And this is a small, just a little bit of a glance of how the Knowledge Hub is looking like. Knowledge Hub has a library and a learning center. And then the one that you have in your left side is the interface of how the library is looking like. So when you go into the library, you can actually screen all the different types of reports, technical resources, action plans and project initiatives, financial resources, and so on. According to the different themes, plastic life cycle stages such as production, consumption, and waste management, and then legacy plastics. And then also resource types such as technical resources, technology, action plan, and so on, and also geography. And then we are also developing and then cleaning up all those the knowledge materials incorporated into the Knowledge Hub through the different tagging systems, so that you can also navigate this library through the key topics such as polymers of concern, chemicals of concern, and then all those just transition of informal sector and so on, those hot topics that is really related to the current negotiations. And then also we have a learning center where you can get an access to a different, more in-depth learning experiences, which can provide online courses, master classes, webinars, and other materials. So please have a look at this and then navigate through, so that you can also, this is kind of area for your learning and then education. Next slide, please. And this is how the data hub is looking like. As you can see that we have a different global data layers incorporated into this data hub, including onto the topics of waste management, plastics in the environment, plastic governance, and plastic trade. And then, for example, what you are now looking at is a data layer that is showcasing the floating microplastics through the fine sampling methods. And then we actually try to harmonize all those different data sets coming from the EU, Japan, and the US for this data layer to be created. And for which you're going to have a little bit of a presentation about what kind of activities were taking place for that harmonization in the presentation by Maya and Nisha. And those are those efforts are incorporated and then showcased in those data layers. If you click here, you can have a data explanation and data source links. And then on your right side, on that top, you can find a legend, and then you can learn what kind of data is showcased in here. Next slide, please. And then this is something that we are currently developing, which is a national dashboard, which is funneling and screening those global data sets into a national level. So we are creating some overview, trade narratives, waste management, legacy plastics, and governance, so that you really can see the snapshot of the countries. And then also some data gaps here. For example, if there's no data, then you can see no data. So this is a kind of snapshot that you can really see. And however, you can also see where the data gaps are. And we are currently developing, and we would like to release this for the coming weeks. Next slide, please. And this is how the workspace and a workflow is looking like. Workflow is accessible under the workspace. You can see the workspace on the green button on the top on the right. But once you create your account and then get invited to the country pages, you can be the part of national action planning for the plastic strategy, preventing and reducing plastic pollution in the countries. So this workflow basically provides the different sub-steps kind of streamlined sub-steps towards national source inventory development and national plastic strategy development, including starting from like stakeholders consultation, data knowledge on the plastic data, legislation and policy review and analysis, and so on. And then next slide, please. And then, for example, the each different steps has got intro, and then available data and statistics and different resources are featured under here. But as you can see, for example, under this state of knowledge on plastic data, you really can see the downloadable reporting template for the how to develop state of knowledge, what kind of data should be looked at, step-by-step guidance, technical guidance, as you can see, is provided. Next slide, please. And this is how we are currently calling it community, but we're going to rename it as a partners hub. So how this is how the partners hub would look like. So all these different types of organizations are featured, and some of the organization has got focal points that has the profile or under the GPML digital platform is featured, and then you can search and filter using the functionality a search box that is on the left top. Next slide, please. And also under the community and also the partners hub, we are featuring those 3 different community or practice on data harmonization, modeling and monitoring methodologies, harmonization and informing actions. So the different entities and experts are gathering together voluntarily under this different 3 types of communities of practice and working on each topic, such as data harmonization, modeling, monitoring, its methodologies, harmonization, and then also action planning. And then if you could go in there, you can also some of those materials and reports can be which are featured under this page. And then, for example, this is the community or practice on data harmonization. As you can see, the key outcome resources are showcased under here. And if you click this one, what kind of harmonization efforts were taking place, for example, to create the microplastics data layers and so on. Next slide, please. So this is kind of this is the summary of the potential of the GPML digital platform to be a go-to online space for the plastic pollution experts and any stakeholders who's got the stake in the reducing plastic pollution. So, for example, I'd like to highlight first one, measuring cumulative progress is one thing that the GPML digital platform can really support on actions and efforts to reduce plastic pollution globally, regionally, and nationally. And then we also do a lot of harmonization and methodology, since we anyway going to collect all those different types of data sets. And here we can also do the data and a glossary for the key plastic pollution indicators for the standardized methodologies and guidances. And because we are going to collect all those different types of data, the streamlined data validation, comparing a different data sets and reported data from countries can be taken place. Of course, that the knowledge hub can be further developed to showcase some curated resources that can recommend the most up-to-date and scientific knowledge and learning resources. Facilitation and financing could be also incorporated into the GPML digital platform for the impactful projects, matchmaking, project implementers and donor communities, and so on, and then identifying investment gaps from the collected global data sets. And of course, there might be the GPML digital platform could be the space for automated reportings on the country's obligations and or ambitions for the Global Plastic Treaty. So these are the key areas of potential of the GPML Vista platform. And then you can also connect the GPML Vista platform through the link on the below. So thank you very much. And now I'd like to give the floor to Maya, and for the presentation on GPML Data Hub and in data harmonization activities. Maya, please, floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much now, and thank you for extending the invitation to us to join. I'll be presenting on behalf of UNEP DHI team, and Nisha, my colleague, will also speak a little in more detail about the data harmonization activities. But if we could please move to the next slide. I just wanted to add a few words about the upcoming feature that is in works at the moment for the Data Hub. As now already mentioned, we are looking to try to pull together the different national data sets that we have on the platform already to create a bit more condensed picture for each of the countries we have incorporated on the platform. And the aim to do this is through creating these national dashboards. So at the moment, the platform has around 70 plus various indicators. So we're looking at maps, sort of global or regional coverage data sets for different kind of indicators in relation to plastics, covering different aspects of the life cycle. What we're looking to do is to move towards creating a bit more narrowed in picture on what the situation is in each of the countries. So through the dashboard, we're looking to pull out the data for those specific countries in a way that's comparable and also creates a snapshot of where the different countries stand in terms of plastic waste production, recycling, import, export, etc. One feature I wanted to highlight maybe here, and I hope we'll have opportunities to speak about the dashboard in the near future, of course, is that we are looking at enabling the users or the country representatives to also submit latest data to the dashboard. So a starting point here will be available datasets either from global datasets or from national statistics, but there will be opportunity for the users, for the country focal points to also submit either data where we have gaps at the moment or a data update. So as now also mentioned, in long term, we're of course looking to have the national dashboard as a tool that can help to create an overview of the situation within the countries, but also do so in a way that's comparable. And as now also mentioned, the timeline we're looking at is to have the dashboards ready by early November of this year. So if we could move to the next slide, please. I wanted to go back also to the data harmonization work. So UNEP DHI have been coordinating the data harmonization community of practice that's been in works for a couple of years now. The focus of this specific community of practice has been in harmonizing existing data sets on plastics, really at the metadata and individual data point level in order to be able to compare where this is possible and also integrate the data sets from different providers for different geographies, again, where this is possible and is approved by the community of practice. This work has largely focused on both identifying what data do we have available globally and regionally surrounding plastics and plastics management, but also at developing tools that can help the harmonization work. And of course, working with community of practice members has been really critical here. And if we move to the next slide, I believe we have just a snapshot of the members of the community. I believe we're working with more than 30 organizations, or have been working with more than 30 organizations, and really leading both government, regional, scientific partners that have experience in collecting plastics-related data sets, and also working with modeling in relation to plastics life cycle. So again, I wanted to just highlight the critical part of the community of practice here has been not just the production of the tools and making different data sets, indicators available on the Data Hub, but really also having these sometimes quite heated discussions about what does data harmonization requires if we're looking at the global picture, and also what data is the best that we can make available to the Data Hub users at the moment. If we move to the next slide, please. I just wanted to mention kind of the main tool, or some of the main outputs of this work of the community of practice. We have developed, again, together with our community of practice partners, a data harmonization matrix that can help support harmonization of quite diverse data sets across various dimensions of the plastics life cycle. And here we have really drawn on the experiences from our regional partners, from global partners that do work on daily basis, both with collection of data, but also of harmonization and standards in relation to plastics data. And Nisha will speak in a few moments a little more about that. And of course, one of the key outputs of this work has been making the best data sets we have at the global scale at the moment available on the Data Hub. And these have also been reviewed and standardized using this tool as support, which also means that we, of course, include the metadata to each of the indicators, each of the data sets available on the hub. So the users, they understand both where the data are coming from, but also what are the methods used to collect the data. With that, I think I would like to hand over to my colleague Nisha. Nisha has been leading the data harmonization work and has been very involved in development and testing also of the matrix, so she'll be able to say a few more words about that and give example of how that looks like in a practice. Thanks, and over to you, Nisha. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. I'll just give a few more details on the data harmonization matrix. So the original principle was to base it on the same strategy that's being used for SDG reporting, where one core concept is that each observation should be uniquely identified. We aim to have something that's suitable for both qualitative and quantitative data at both global, regional, national, and subnational levels. And this matrix also forms the foundation for our calculation of indicators for a database. And here our focus, even though we can go down to subnational and regional, our focus is data that's issued at a country level. In addition to each observation being uniquely identified, we also want to still store essential information about each data point. So we may go a bit further. We don't only include what's necessary for unique identification. We may also include some more concepts if we deem that that's important for actually understanding what this data point is. And the idea of the matrix is basically that we have columns with different concepts. And within each concept, we have codes, which are again defined with an internal hierarchy. I tried to put in this little image, which is just a snapshot of a small part of one of the concepts, where you can kind of see how this hierarchy works. So for instance, if you chose marine suspended for your data point, that would also mean that it's a subset of the marine. And again, it's a subset of the environment. So in general, the aim is to go as deep down in the hierarchy as possible, but in some cases it's not possible or not relevant to go all the way down to the deepest levels. And then we might just stop at marine, but we know that that also includes a lot of different types of marine environments. So that's basically how the codes are defined. In addition to the code, we also have some free text concepts. And we have some concepts which are flexible, so they can be used with different meanings depending on what the type of data is. Because, for instance, policy data sets and biota data sets are very different, and we would need very different concepts to describe them. So we may have a flexible concept which can be either one or the other, depending on what the data set is. Next slide, please. So just an example. So when we use the data harmonization matrix, the aim is often that we would like to compare different data sets, and we have utilized that in bringing together floating microplastic data from EMODnet, MOEJ, the Ministry of Environment of Japan, and NOAA. So the idea is here that we take these separate data sets, we harmonize them, because this allows us to kind of extract the information that is for each data point. And once we've harmonized each data set, that's when we can start seeing which data points are comparable. Because what we found was that even within these data sets, not all data points were comparable. So we kind of had to do this whole harmonization exercise to actually understand what data sets we were looking at and how we could compare them. And we ended up with one example is this indicator, which is shown on the side. So that's all data or all microplastic that was collected with nets using a mesh size using a mesh with a size of 0.3 to 0.335 millimeters. And without doing the harmonization exercise, we would have had trouble extracting the methods for each of them, which would mean we weren't sure if all these data points were comparable. So that's kind of the basic concept or what we are trying to do with the matrix. Next slide, please. Okay, I think this one we can skip. I can see we're running a bit out of time. So I just have one final slide on our next steps. So we will be looking into whether we can add some more biodiversity data to the portal. We also want to look at whether beach litter from various countries can be harmonized into one indicator. And finally, we also want to add the waste hotspots data from the University of Leeds. And that's all from me. So over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maya and Nisha, for the very informative presentation. So yeah, it's really useful to know how the data harmonization work is being taken place, and so that we can also keep the running of the waste the data hub operation as transparent as possible. Okay, so the next speaker is Petra Kinklova. Petra is a statistician currently assigned with the UNCTAD statistics, where she contributes to various projects with particular interest in measuring inclusiveness and sustainability of global trade. Before joining UNCTAD, she worked at the UNIDO Statistics Division, where she played a key role in developing a global monitoring indicator framework for SDG 9, emphasizing sustainable industrialization. She holds a PhD in technical mathematics from Vienna University of Technology in Australia, and then she is going to make a presentation about harnessing trade data integration for policy action on plastic pollution. Floor is yours, Petra.
Thank you, Nao. Thank you for a nice introduction. And thank you also for inviting us to participate at this webinar so that we can also share our experience with trade data and the way how trade data can help to inform like policy action on plastic pollution. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I would like to talk a bit about how important the trade data and statistics is, because these data are quite powerful if they are of a good quality and they're harmonized. So good quality trade data helps in assessing the extent and nature of various trade disruptions that are caused by interconnected crises of food, energy, or finance. And these effects particularly influence like developing economies. It also provides insights into how different crises like geopolitical conflicts or supply chain issues impact global and regional trade patterns. By analyzing trade data, we can also better understand the sources and impact of inflation and rising prices. This includes tracking changes in the cost of imported goods and how these changes affect, for example, food and energy prices. Trade data also reveals patterns in food imports and exports, helping to identify supply shortages or surpluses. And this information is critical, especially for addressing food insecurity. Data on trade flows can also highlight different disruptions in supply chains, such as delays or increased costs. And this can help governments to adapt strategies to mitigate the impacts of such disruptions, for example, also during the COVID-19 crisis. Trade data also helps in evaluating the increased risks and costs that are associated with global shipping, such as longer routes and higher insurance premiums. Understanding these factors aids especially in developing strategies to manage and reduce these costs. And when we combine trade data with environmental data, then we can also assess the environmental footprint of trade activities. And this is also the example of tracking plastics trade. And altogether, it also helps to track SDG progress and to guide interventions to achieve SDGs. Can we go to the next slide, please? And if the data are of good quality and harmonized according to the international statistical standards, it can also allow us to create a derived dataset, which is the case of the UNCTAD plastic trade dataset that is featured at the GPML platform. This is a project for research and policy dialogue that was hosted by the Graduate Institutes of Global Government Center. And the main data source are data from UN Comtrade on various commodities that are traded. So these individual goods are classified according to the harmonized commodity description and coding system. We simply say by HS codes. And we have data that are reported in value in US dollars, and also we have quantity in metric tons. And because these data are very detailed, it allows us to identify the plastic products that are traded in various forms of the life cycle of plastics, and we can track the trade flows. This data set is still new, and so we call it as experimental. That's why we are happy that the dataset is also featured at the GPML platform, because we can reach different users. We can also raise awareness about this dataset, and also we would like to receive a feedback on such from the users, because then it will help us to improve the quality of the dataset. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is just a brief overview of what type of plastic products we are talking about. So we track different categories of plastic trade, starting from the plastics in primary forms to manufactured goods. And also we have category tracking plastic waste as identified by the HS codes. Next slide, please. And constructing such a dataset allowed us to derive the main trends of global plastics trade, and we can see here that the global exports of plastic have more than doubled in value since 2005, and in 2021 it reached 1.2 trillion in US dollars. On the graph, you can see that the dark blue is the trade in value, which almost doubled. But then we have also the blue line, the light blue, which is volume, which increased, which was growing like a little bit less, that a little bit slower than the volume, than the value, but it still increased significantly since 2005. And we can also identify the global exports by the plastic content, seeing that the most of the global plastic trade is in primary forms, but also manufactured plastics represent a significant part of the global plastics trade. Next slide, please. So what we are doing with trade statistics, because it's there are a lot of ways how we can collaborate with other partners. So the trade data collection and release is done together with World Trade Organization. But we work also with other partners in developing new trade-derived products, which is, for example, also the plastic trade dataset. We currently published a new data on transport costs. This is together with the World Bank. We also have maritime data with International Maritime Organization and also with other partners. We work together with UN Statistics Division to improve available methods, especially now to create a better HS-based trade metrics, because it will help us to derive these products with better quality. We work together with member states to help them build their statistical capacities to report trade statistics to the UN in a better quality. We also provide various e-learning courses on merchandise trade and trade in services, including statistical guidance. And on the map here, you can see that we really engage with users from all around the world. We also developed a software for collecting data on trade and services together with UMOA that is now being adopted by some countries. And when I can talk directly about the plastic pollution projects, we are also developing, together with UNEP and UNITAR, we are helping to develop statistical guidelines on measuring flows of plastic along the life cycle. And our plastics trade data have been pretty much discussed with several representatives at the INC plastics negotiations. And we will continue in Korea at INC 5. Next slide, please. So just very briefly about the new data set on trade and transport data, because this can later on be also linked to plastic products. So we just released a new data set which gives a global picture of the transport that enables trade and includes also the costs of the trade. And the data is broken down by commodity group and mode of transport, which can be also, which could serve as a basis for calculating emissions from the transport of traded goods, or for example, costs of trading goods. Next slide, please. And another project I would like to mention, which is also relevant for plastic pollution, is that we are also addressing the issue of finding alternatives to plastics, such as reusable, biodegradable, or compostable materials. So as a part of the Sustainable Manufacturing and Environmental Pollution Program, we have identified around 280 HS codes for materials that can perform similarly as plastics. And we also consider these eco-friendly materials that they can offer trade opportunities for developing economies. So far, our estimate is that in 2022, the global trade in non-plastic substitutes reached more than 500 billion. Next slide, please. And having these HS codes also help us to track trade-related policy trends. So we can see here that trade-related policy measures affecting both plastic or non-plastic substitutes are on the rise. Member states notified the WTO of a wide range of measures related to plastic, non-plastic substitutes, or other environmental requirements. And such measures can be, for example, from environmental specifications, standards, instruments, for price and market-based support, different type of measures. But here we can see that based on the notifications from member states, Environmental related notifications are the most common type of measures. But when we look on the annual average growth rate of these notifications, we see that the highest one is for plastics with 28%. And I think this is since 2009. And then it's followed by non-plastic substitutes with 14%. And the last one, environment related, are around 6% growth rate. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to invite you to explore the data on the GPML platform. And if you have any questions, you can always get back to us and we can discuss it. Thank you very much, and back to you now.
Thank you, Petra, for the presentation. It's very interesting and in a really surprising to see that the plastic trade has been doubled since 2006, 2005. And also, however, it's very encouraging to see like various initiatives and capacity development efforts are taking place by the UNCTAD, because considering the importance of the plastic trade data and how those can really inform the policies at the national and global level. Thank you very much, Petra. So now I'd like to move on to the next presentation by Samuel Nyakuda from WWF South Africa, who is working with us to develop a national source inventory towards national plastic strategies and is supporting the government of South Africa. And in this process, he's using the digital platform heavily, I think. And so we will hear his presentation as a voice of the user of the digital platform. Samuel, are you here?
Thanks very much now.
Great.
I can clearly hear you. Thanks
Great.
very much for the invitation and also giving us the opportunity to share our experiences of using the GPML platform for the South African project. We can go to the next slide. So my presentation is going to be structured in this format. I'll not go through the contents. In the interest of time, I'll just go to the next slide as well. The South African project is indicated by now as well. We are actually the implementers of the project to support the implementation of catalytic actions and commitments that are aimed at reducing the plastic pollution in the marine environment throughout South Africa. And in these processes, there are a couple of activities that would be carried out that would, through the development, which is the development of legal and collaborative frameworks and strategic planning. We also note that there are a number of legal and collaborative frameworks that have been developed in South Africa, but this project would also go as far as strengthening those legal and collaborative frameworks as well, in ensuring that probably we've got a platform where we can collectively, through government and also other role players, tackle the issue of plastic pollution in South Africa. We would also be able to develop a national source inventory. And ultimately for us, we had said that we would be developing a draft national plan, national action plan on plastic pollution for South Africa, which would cover issues around marine litter as well, and plastic pollution in the general environment. We can, next slide. So for us using the platform, we have managed to do a number of things that are assisting us in the implementation of the project. The project is mainly Department of Forestry and Fisheries, and Environment, which is our custodian of the natural environment in South Africa. We we're working closely with Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, as they are the national focal point for this project. And we've also, as WWF South Africa, we are implementing the project, and we've also a supporting project implementer in the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. They've done a number of research projects around plastic pollution reduction, data harmonization, data gathering, collection, analysis. So they've got a number of activities that they are currently implementing in the project as well. And through the GPML platform as well, we've managed to appoint a national steering committee, which would also be the checks and balance of the implementers around the project. And some of the activities, because the project is fairly relatively new, we're still in the initial implementation of the project. And in the initial implementation of the project, on the 20th of September, we actually held our initial stakeholder consultation workshop just to introduce the project to the stakeholders that we will be working with, and also gather their thoughts, inputs in terms of how we could enhance the implementation of the project, and some of the areas that they feel that the project would also look at. So the nature of the country is that we would need to have 2 consultative workshops. The other one would also be held in the north of the country. The Cape Town is in the south of the country. In the north of the country, on the 9th of October, we actually going to be having a stakeholder consultation workshop. So to actually replicate what we have been doing in Cape Town, but with different stakeholders as well. So on the right of the screen as well, there is a sample of our draft stakeholder consultation workshop invitations, and also we have developed through the GPML platform. Using the GPML platform, we have developed the terms of reference for the National Steering Committee. We've been guided in terms of the selection of stakeholders to include, and the processes to include, to also develop a stakeholder consultation plan. So we've got those in place. We've managed to develop those through the guidance we've got from the GPML, and also the technical assistance we've been getting from the UNEP team. We can go to the next slide. So these are the phases of the project that we're going to implement. So currently we're doing the gap analysis and the data collection. We speaking to stakeholders who are also in the field of data collection. So we currently doing this. This is being done by the other implementation partner, CSIR. And also we are also doing the legislation and policy review, which is also being presented in our 2 workshops, the other one being, as I had indicated, on the 9th of October next week. And the third phase would involve the development of a national source inventory report, which would also lead to a national action plan. After we have developed a national action plan, factoring in all the inputs that we've gathered from all the other stakeholders, would be able to do a stakeholder validation process to check, to report back to the stakeholders, and also to check if we have missed any other aspects that they might have raised in the initial stakeholder consultation process. All these processes as well, there is a guiding template within the GPML platform that would follow, and also we try to tailor make it to a South African environment. We understand understand that environments are not necessarily the same, but it gives us a head start in terms of ensuring that we cover all the other aspects that we think would be relevant for the South African context. In the next slide. Yeah. So for us, what does the GPML platform represent? It represents a knowledge hub for us. It has given us information. We've managed to gather knowledge from the GPML platform. Other countries that have also gone on to develop national action plan on plastic pollution. We've used the platform to gather that. It also gives us an opportunity for our cooperation with other partners and stakeholders as well. We've managed to identify a number of stakeholders and partners that we have reached out to, so that we can be able to implement the project, the South African project, more effectively. It also has allowed us to share ideas and experiences through the platforms that we have actually gotten. Yes, like in the process that we're currently doing in data analysis and data gap, we have also managed to ensure that we use the platform to identify such gaps. It has also worked for us to identify areas we should be looking in terms of the data that we have, and other emerging issues that we might also have. It has also given us a platform to converge as stakeholders. It's a new platform it's a new platform to most of our stakeholders. So continuously encouraging also our stakeholders to register through the platform. We can go to the next slide. So yeah, as the last slide, I think this is just mainly to say that we've been guided by the GPML platform to formulate our project team, which comprises mostly of implementers, and also the focal point. We also once or twice have invited the funder UNEP to form part of our project team. In the next few weeks, on the 17th, we're actually having our initial national steering committee, which we've been guided by the GPML platform material that we got also. It has also assisted us in actually map our stakeholders on the platform, and also guide the engagement processes that we're currently using. And we have also set up as a team to meet and review the stakeholder engagement process emanate from the Cape Town experience, which we have also found out that there isn't much that needs to be changed. In fact, there is nothing that needs to be changed in terms of the process that we have used using the GPML platform. And in terms of the information that we're getting from the GPML platform, the vastness, the richness of the information that we've gotten from the platform has also assisted that in ensuring that the implementation it's much smoother and much effective. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, in terms of the challenges in using the GPML platform, I can say that we haven't been having much challenges in terms of using the GPML platform, or other technical issues that we have not been assisted by the UNEP technical team. We've had calls with the UNEP technical team just to discuss some other aspects that we might not necessarily understand. But one thing that we have also found out that in terms of like the community of practice forums, you would need access you need to be granted access to actually access information content from those forums. And we are also of the view that, like I had indicated, one of our partner has got so much vast experience in terms of data harmonization, and we are of the view that they should also form part of that group. It's a matter maybe that we can engage with the UNEP technical team outside the webinar as well. And we also the view in terms of setting up our project team and steering committee. There are some information that are still missing, despite having tried to capture that. As you can see on the presentation on the last person, which is from WWF, still the organization is not being reflected despite her having registered on the platform. I think that could be a technical issue that might also need to be resolved by the UNEP technical team as well. We can go to the next slide. So it's still those issues in terms of stakeholders information that needs to be added up. In terms of our National Steering Committee members and project team members, some would need to be encouraged to go on and actually register on the platform so that the information is complete. But it's a process that we're also engaging with UNEP and also those members as well. At times you might have challenges in members going through the platform and registering on their own. But we felt that probably if we could be given an opportunity to maybe just fill out their organizational names, it would help us as well. We can go to the next slide. I think it should be the last slide. In terms of we're saying that how do we probably enhance the GPML platform? We are of the view that if probably we can include policy courses on the learning center around maybe EPR, extended producer responsibility, and other policy related courses, because what we're trying to achieve with this project is to influence policy decisions, to influence policy implementation within South African context. And it would be also great for us if we could, through the platform as well, given the opportunity to or UNEP to also include the policy courses in that platform as well. Yeah, I think basically that was us, and thank you very much. Now this is my last slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for the great suggestions. And then also apologies for the technical glitches that you have been experiencing. We would like to address that. But it's really, in general, I think it's very, very great to see that the GPML digital platform is really supporting countries to develop this process of national source inventory development, convening all those stakeholders, as well as the providing the space for sharing knowledges and so on. So great. Thank you so much for your presentation, Samuel. So I'd like to now move on to the next presentation. The next speaker is Dr. Kostas Velis from University of Leeds, who recently published his cutting-edge study on the global estimated plastic emission into the environment from municipal solid waste management system globally on Nature. And then with this comes with the granularity of municipalities and national boundaries. It's very interesting. And then this started as our collaboration dating back to 2019, where we started exploring the identification of plastic pollution hotspot cities. So he leads a team with the core research focus on enabling sustainable circular economy and on preventing plastic pollution. Costas, are you here?
Yes, thank you so
Great.
much now. Can you hear me well?
Yes, great. Thank you. Over to
Excellent.
you, Costas. Maybe you can also share your screen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen right now. I'm going to share my whole screen, and then I'm going to move to here to the presentation mode. So you should, oops, sorry, that's possibly seeing the wrong slide. The last slide, not the first one. So hopefully now you'll see the first slide. As I said, thank you so much for this initiative, and it's a great pleasure to be able to join you. For the next 10 minutes or so, I will be covering, as now explained, what is this new methodology and the global baseline that we have released, but also how this has been practically enabled by our long-standing collaboration. So now explain what already we been working on. So I'm not going to dwell on it, but we're working on circular economy, waste management, taking a systems approach, and working from the laboratory to models, incorporating all aspects. So very briefly, I would like to offer a few elements of this collaboration just to really demonstrate that it's really important to partner and have a long-term commitment, and this really pays dividends in the efforts of achieving things. I think now we've been engaged already a lot from the ad hoc group which created the Waste-Wise Cities tool, and where I've been coordinating the creation of waste flow diagram. And even at that time, that was, of course, done as a young habitat, but we were able to direct resources from the waste flow diagram to enable also the creation of the and provide a substantial input to the Waste-Wise Cities tool with my team and the wider consortium that developed the waste flow diagram, but also develop this tool to be really as compatible as possible from the day one. And I think now this collaboration is continued, and we're making these tools even more compatible. And as a result of this collaboration, we had the pleasure of being one of the organizations that provide one of the members of the GPML with a lot of interest in looking at the data and the data harmonization, all the core things that the digital platform is trying to achieve. So we have already released beta versions of the results of the model and the publication I'm going to share here today. We have released those quite early, actually, even 2 years ago. And actually, this has been taken up and used by other users, or used also by DHI to develop their prediction toolkit, a fast prediction toolkit for plastic pollution locally, and so on. And of course, an early version of the model also in the previous year, in the absence of extensive data for cities for the Sustainable Development Goal 11.6.1, was used to model that on a global basis, and then found its way on the Sustainable Development Goals reporting. And eventually, of course, we're happy to be involved in the communities of practice, and I have the pleasure of chairing, facilitating the community of practice on modeling and monitoring methodologies harmonization. And these are some of the different elements, ways that we have built through the years. And where we are today, we're having this work that I'm going to present here. A big problem that we're facing across the world on plastics pollution is that we're having around over 1.5 billion people without any waste collection. This is a conservative estimate, and these people have no choice. They're going to dump their waste in their surroundings, or they're going to set it on fire practically, which causes massive plastic pollution in different forms. And from these models we have been developing over the year, as I said, I'm going to be very briefly focusing on the model SPOT, which is a global model, but starts with local data. Essentially, it has two different parts. The first part that I'm going to be reporting is a material flow analysis, which allows us to define and quantify what we call plastic emissions. And I'm going to explain this concept very, very soon. So as I said, this is a bit of an overview. We published this into the prestigious journal of Nature, and we're doing that by full open access. So all the data are there available, both input, output, data, and the code. And most importantly, we look now forward to within the next weeks to have all this data uploaded into the GPML data hub. There's a wealth of data, as you will see, and as you see from the different types of, if you like, graphics and outputs that you are presented here. Obviously, I cannot share all the details now, but do keep an eye on that, and I'm sure we'll make an announcement ourselves also when this is available on the GPML. As I said, this tool had already an early impact, both in providing us a way also to link SDG 11.6.1, but also practically start interlinking these SDG with the plastic pollution emissions from macroplastic waste. So also interlinking with methodologies and data at the local level, like the WACT toolkit and the waste flow diagram. All right, so let me give you very briefly some information about the sort of concepts you're using, the analysis you've done to be able to suitably understand it. We're looking at where the plastic pollution from bigger items, the items that are bigger than 5 millimeters, what we call macroplastics, they're associated with waste, all these items. And we look at uncollected waste that is littered on the go in touristic areas, but also leakages from the collection system, because not everything is contained, depending on the system that we have in place, and what happens in the disposal from formal or informal disposal, such as dump sites, and also from processing the waste to recover values, such as in classic mechanical recycling, what happens on the reject. And look at two different types of plastic pollution that can result, either physical objects that are released in the items, we call them debris emissions, or the items can be set on fire in a totally uncontrolled fashion, we call this up and uncontrolled burning emissions. So if you see as another way to visualize this situation, we have in different activities that are taking place, and the waste may end up as, in the environment as a result. If you're going to look at the bit more detail, we're providing much more detailed scientific definitions, and we try to unify and clarify a lot of the terms. These are not necessarily used in the same way in other methodologies, but we put a lot of effort to create something that is consistent here, and we have to go on and clarify how this relates to other methodologies. But essentially, moving a bit of waste from this concept of mismanaged waste that was used as an estimate of the plastic pollution, and we're looking about unmanaged emissions that are in the environment and it cannot be controlled anymore. You can give you an example of that here. If you had a dump site is not a good management practice. So it's mismanagement, but it is a form of management. So it's not totally unmanaged. So it's a mismanaged way of dealing with the waste, but not all of it will automatically result in plastic pollution. What is going to be set on fire there, because fires are quite often in dump sites, it's going to become pollution through the open burning, and the items also that are available to be taken from the surface around through the wind and so on will also become as physical objects plastic pollution. So we're quantifying these things now much more precisely. The beauty of this model, which it took a lot of years of development, and the effort really was enabled through our collaboration with you now and UN Habitat team, but also enabled with UN Environment funding, gives us the opportunity to take local data measured on the ground. And this is a big difference to all the other works that have been presented so far. For example, and most importantly, the WACT, the Waste Wise Cities Toolkit, and then building on that to start a model the whole world, and then we can aggregate, we can integrate the data in any administrative boundary, being that other cities, or being a country, or being the world, and so on. So very briefly now, I'm going to move on what this global model told us. What is a very big picture? It gives us a new baseline of what is happening to the world with unprecedented detail, but also hopefully a bit more accuracy on what actually happens. And this tells us that is almost is around 52 million tons of plastic products are becoming pollution, are emitted as pollution each year. You might start asking yourselves, you have a question, how does this compare with previous works? There's no work to directly fully compare with, because our definitions are slightly different, are a bit more tight, but the amount of pollution is bigger. At least the one that is released on terrestrial environment is much, much bigger actually than some of the previous estimates. But also it's very, very important to understand that more than the physical objects that are emitted and we see them in the environment, even more items are set on fire through open and controlled burning, which is hugely damaging in terms of human health and the environment practice. Regarding which are the places around the world which have the most pollution, and having challenges around the pollution, that's not to put anyone on the spotlight, but it's more to start talking about what resources should be made available to those countries to be enabled in terms of financial resources, policies, mechanisms, capacity development to tackle plastic pollution challenge. We see a differentiated big picture also, and India is emerging in absolute terms, also because of being the most populous country now in the world, as the country with the biggest challenge. Where this pollution comes from, and that's the beauty again of this work, we can now link this pollution to the phenomena behind it, to what is happening. So we see now that clearly the waste that is not collected, uncollected waste, contributes around 68% of all the plastic, microplastic pollution that we see. 85% is in the form of physical objects. Also, a lot comes, 25% comes from uncontrolled municipal waste dump sites. Most of the pollution that comes from dump sites is not objects that are escaping from there, but is material that is set on fire. So it's through open uncontrolled burning that takes place in this. I put here very briefly the big picture, but it's a very big wealth of data. I would tell you, maybe it's better go and see the actual paper, and it's freely, everything is freely available for everyone. If we take a simplified version here and look in a bit of the results aggregated into the regions according to the United Nations classification of the regions, that's what you see on the one side. We see that we're having challenges in Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And of course, in the high-income countries, waste is collected, so we have much lower waste escaping into the environment, but we're having problems with littering. Also, it shows also how the countries with least resources having clearly the biggest challenge here at hand and need to be enabled to see the positive change on the ground. So very briefly now, I'm going to just mention that clearly, as I said, this is local data. The Waste Wise Cities Toolkit is giving us the most important data in that respect and can be incorporated. And as the application of the toolkit builds momentum, we have made a promise also to rerun the model, maybe twice or once per year. We have to see that, what's the pace of progress on that data from this and other data sources. and help developing an up-to-date baseline, which will be made available on the GPML Data Hub. You can see an example of the type of resolution we're having here on different administrative levels. And we have, yes, I'm finishing now.
Yeah, great.
Yes. We're showing this just to show the type of data, but there's tons of different types of variables, and also is linked to the second part, which is not released yet. Interestingly, we saw data for South Africa as well. We've been there recently. That shows what happens to this weight after it's emitted, where it goes into the environment. We can see how it reaches the sea, what are the other hotspots, what are the municipalities most affected, and so on. So we're very, very pleased that all this collaboration was enabled with our long-standing efforts, joint efforts now. And we're very pleased now that this work is going to be reaching much bigger audiences and be used by the stakeholders through the GPML Data Hub. We're grateful for that, and we look forward to see this making some real impact in the world. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Kostas. It's very, very interesting study. It's really interesting to see that the uncollected waste and the dump sites are the major source of plastic pollution, especially from the municipal solid waste management system. So now I'd like to move on to our Q&A session. And then we have a different questions put into the Q&A chat room. And most of them are being at the moment is addressed. There's one question from Vanessa. Can we have one solution and try everyone to implement that? I think that maybe I can channel this to Kostas maybe, because we are now finding out the sources of the plastic pollution are heavily coming from like uncollected waste and dump site. What kind of solution can be come up with and then given and applied to such kind of problems?
Yes, thank you now, and thank you for the question. The general answer is there's no one size fits all. We have the big picture. We have a clear big picture through this model. As I showed you on the maps also, we have a lot of differentiation even within each country. And even with the WAC toolkit, you would have be able to see differentiations even within a city, big disparities from informal settlements to the commercial areas. So in general, we're able to develop suites of solutions that will have some generic applicability. But of course, in the places where they don't have waste collection, this is the utmost really important action to be prioritized. Now, if we're talking about the global north, there are other issues around the microplastics. There are issues about the uncollected litter. The street sweeping efficiency also is something that is not measured in the UK or anywhere really in the world, but is most of relevance in preventing plastics pollution, and a lot of efforts should be focused there. Also on the dump sites and the open burning, I think this is a complex issue that hasn't been focused enough so far. Hopefully our work will help bring that to the forefront of our understanding. And they're not easy solutions. We cannot just ban those things from happening, because this is happening in the absence of services and infrastructure. But I think focusing on the provision of basic, simple, functional services and infrastructure, if you like, if you have a big idea, this should be that, but should be customized in each country, in each place, to fit the cultural, the financial, the administrative challenges of each place.
Thank you, Kostas, for this. Of course, one fits all kind of solution is not going to be available, but this conversation kind of reminded me of that where those wastes are coming from for those countries, India and Nigeria, and those countries that was shown in your presentation. I'd like to bring the mic to Petra. About the solution, I'm just wondering, like, from your experience of dealing with the statistics, what kind of solution trade measures, for example, can be thought through or could be applied and then implemented by countries to really prevent the plastic pollution?
Thank you, Now. Thank you for the question. So from the statistical perspective, I think this is actually much more straightforward than in the policy world. So what we encourage countries to produce, to invest into their statistical systems and to collect data the best way as they can do on a detailed basis, and also to follow the international statistical standards adopted by member states, because then we can really track the trade flows properly, and we can see from which countries the commodities are moving to other countries. So then we can really track the amount and also the destinations or the flows of such products. And not only that, of course, in trade, it's also not only about goods, but it's being more and more about trade and services. So we can also, if we have the data, we can then track the services connected to also plastic products.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, like emphasizing the importance of the data to really inform the policy. Yes, so I think we have a lot of questions, especially from Join. However, that we have got this Mentimeter to get some feedback from all of the people here. And then for the question of the Join, we would like to respond to you through the email. So bear with us on that. So can we go into the Mentimeter questions? So you can go to the join@menti.com using the code 616420 and 3. So how useful do you find the GPML digital platform? Please give us your answer. I'm happy that no one is saying that useless. Great. Okay, now I'm very happy to hear all those feedback saying useful and very useful. Relatively useful, of course, yes. Good. Shall we go on to the next question? Which parts of the GPML digital platform do you find useful? So great. So the data hub has got the highest rank. And then what knowledge hub also. This is great. I'm also happy that no one is saying that none of them is useful. Great. Shall we go to another question? Next question. What features and content do you think the platform can include? Policy information. Yes, that's something that we would like to work on in the next phase. Plastics reporting function. Yes, sounds good. Hosting webinars, plastic hotspots around sensitive ecosystem. Yes, that's something that we are actually going to incorporate into the data hub for the coming months. Case studies, trends and baselines, project addressing the plastic litters. Yes, this is also something that we would like to enhance functionality for so many different stakeholders can also post their projects information onto the digital platform. Right, next question. Let's go to the next question. What features or contents do you think would benefit the private sector? Partners have funding opportunities to innovate around plastic management, plastic solutions. So the strengthening of the partners hub could be a key for bringing in more private sectors and also funding opportunities. Thank you very much. The next one. What features or content would be most useful for academia and research is data, kind of a grading system to assess the quality of publications. Interesting. This is in research funding on plastic pollution topics, possible collaborators, or those looking for solutions, data, country profiles. Yes, we are working on the country profiles. Yes, next. Let's go to the next question. What features or content would better serve government entities? Data hub. Quick overview of best practices and practices lacking in their policies. Regulation data. So sort of a case studies for informing policies would be strengthened as well. What features of content would better serve NGO and civil society? Advocacy. Yes, advocacy. That's very interesting. Yes. Partners have data, capacity building, youth engagement. Funding opportunities for application at local level. So this is something we also would like to expand our functionality to, the how we can really facilitate funding opportunities to the people or organizations seeking for the project reducing plastic pollution. This is something very interesting topic to explore. Thank you for your great inspiration. What features and contents would you recommend including to increase the number of users on the GPML digital platform? Funding opportunities or social media. What's this ML marine litter functionality? I don't know. ML means to sort content based on the relevancy in a location. Yes. Webinars and specific information on how data is collected. One-click signups. One-click signups. Yes. Key figures directly accessible without analyzing papers. Yes, this is something also we would like to kind of elaborate through the data, and especially for bridging the science and policy. Great. Thank you so much. I think this is the end of the questions. Thank you very much, everyone, to provide all those insights and then source of inspirations for us. So then today I'd like to close the session today. Thank you very much for joining us today. And as we wrap up this webinar on the digital platform, I want to express my gratitude to our speakers and also all of you for your active participation. As I mentioned in the beginning, the webinar has been recorded, and the representation slides will be sent to all registrations soon. And then so today I hope you enjoyed this seminar, and then thank you very much again for your engagement and commitment, and have a great day, and then stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.